Join me inside my writing yurt. Come on. So I want to go now to a question that comes from South Dakota. Garrettson, I think is the name of the town. This is a question from Anita C. And the question is this, and I think it's a wonderful question. The question is, what is the best way to make this course effective and yet run independently for my teen? And I love how this question addresses both the issue of how to learn effectively, how to make effective use of a grammar curriculum, as well as to honor the sense of independence that teenage learners often desire. We've had a number of teenage learners use the basic Cozy Grammar course, the basic Cozy Punctuation course, high school level, or they're homeschoolers, but they would be in the equivalent of maybe 9, 10, 11th grade. And something that a number of homeschooling families and a number of homeschooling mothers have told us is that they really appreciate the fact that they don't have to get in there and do everything with their older students, so they can sort of hand off at least a big chunk of, say, the language arts curriculum or the grammar curriculum, and then their son, their daughter, their children can go forward with it as they so desire. So I have 3 sets of suggestions that address each of these 2 things: the effective teaching, the effective learning part of the question, as well as the independent part of the question, the honoring of independence, which is also a way of honoring freedom, so that the student feels free to proceed on their own and the parent feels free to attend to all the other things that they may need to attend to, especially if they're homeschooling. In fact, as a side note, I think it's quite interesting. We've had a number of homeschooling parents who actually have backgrounds in English language or in English literature, or even English grammar in some cases, who have been happy to turn the teaching over to Marie and to myself and to the Cozy Grammar courses, simply because it works better for their family dynamic, which I can certainly honor and respect. So here are my 3 sets of suggestions for how to make the courses effective and yet at the same time run independently, especially for teenage students, teenage learners. So the first suggestion I would have is to find some kind of schedule, to create some regular pattern for the student to go through the courses with. For instance, we offer a 36-week suggested schedule, which you can use. You're also welcome to invite your learner to devise a schedule that makes sense for their own habits, attention span, and so on, or it might be something that you come up with together. The important thing, though, is to have some regular pattern. So I would encourage maybe a Monday through Friday, or if you do a 4-week schedule, a Monday through Thursday kind of schedule, and say maybe every Monday you will watch the video from Marie. Tuesday you would look at the study notes for Marie's video. Wednesday you would look at the supplementary video from myself in the study notes. And then Thursday might be a day for going through the exercises and maybe even correcting the exercises, or maybe that would be something for Friday. There's any number of ways that the schedule can be laid out. But the regularity, I think, is key. It's something that Marie talks about in the preface to the course, about having some kind of organization. It can be very helpful. It can be as simple as determining a place, setting aside a place, that this is the place where we work on grammar, or where a student works on grammar. It might be a time of the day. They may decide that mornings are a better time to work on grammar, or evenings, or even late at night if we have a night owl. The idea, though, is to create a rhythm. And this is not just for inculcating a sense of regularity, but this is also because this is how our minds learn best. When we have a kind of regular pattern, we tend to absorb material much more easily and readily. It's something that connects deeply, I think, both to, interestingly enough, to mathematics and to music, or I should say to geometry and music, to the sense of a kind of a rhythmic pattern. And this is in fact part of the reason why Marie chose at the very beginning to have some piano accompaniment in the courses, because these are pieces which have within them a kind of rhythmic integrity, a kind of melodic integrity, which has been found in different studies to foster learning and foster attentiveness. So that's the schedule piece on the side of making the courses effective. Now, this also means on the side of making the course independent, that once there's a schedule, then a student can freely proceed through that schedule with some sense of independence. And so what matters is not necessarily a parent having to go through and check the work or sort of take a close look on things. All the student then just has to say is, oh yes, today I watched the video, today I looked at the study notes. And here's one more piece, which is that when we moved the courses to be online, we added interactive exercises in the study notes. This means that all of the exercises are graded by the software inside the website, so that and also give feedback to those answers, encouragement when they have been answered correctly, and helpful suggestions and tips when they haven't been answered correctly, so that a parent that is, doesn't necessarily have to get in there and take over the role of correcting the material. So that that's one way that the courses allows the current online setup, I think, allows for more independence with the students. So that's my first sort of pair of suggestions. The second suggestion I have is to really take advantage of the writing activities that are embedded particularly in the study notes and are often connected to the supplementary videos that I offer in the study notes. And this is because, especially when we're learning grammar or punctuation, if we keep it just in the air, so to speak, in the sort of airy world of, verbs and transitive verbs and intransitive verbs, it doesn't feel very real. It doesn't seem to apply to real life. That's why we brought into the study notes a series of exercises which have students applying those grammatical concepts directly to their writing and to creative writing. So not sort of academic, sort of school-oriented writing, but to descriptive activities, to writing stories and to writing poems. The idea being that the more quickly we integrate our grammatical knowledge with the practice of writing or the practice of speaking, the more deeply that knowledge sinks into our awareness of language, our awareness of the capacity of language. One of the things I always mention about the courses is that Marie put them together, and I continue to help foster them in the deep belief that grammar, rather than stifling creativity, can actually enhance it, can actually give us additional tools with which to be creative. And so the second tip as far as working through the courses effectively is to really try all these writing activities. And on the side of independence, these are activities that a student can certainly do on their own. Although in almost every case, we also encourage students to share what they've written at some point with somebody that they know likes writing. Now, this could be a parent. This also could be a friend or peer. It could be another family member, an aunt or an uncle, or a family friend. There is something important about going through the entire process of writing something and then looking over it oneself until one's happy with it, and then publishing it, making it public, even if the public is just a friend or a neighbor or a family member. And of course, it can also be a parent, depending on the parent's time schedule and the student's interest. So that sharing piece is also important, and allowing it to be, allowing the student to decide when they're ready to share a piece of writing or not. Now, the third pair of tips has to do with seeking out support. So that's, in fact, one of the reasons we started Ask Cozy Grammar as a way for students and, in some cases, parents to be able to ask me directly about, say, one of the lessons. In fact, we have a question here coming up about one of the lessons, one of the topics. Because even with all of the, the effort we put into doing the study notes and the interactive exercises and so on online, there still are occasions where you want to have the direct feedback from a teacher who's actually listening to you. And so that's why we started the Ask Cozy Grammar series. And so students, they may have a question that they want to ask me. And so students are very highly and warmly encouraged to sign up for the Ask Cozy Grammar sessions. If that doesn't work for their schedule, I can still try to make an answer, and I'll send the answer in a video form. Or you can even just reach out to us at info@cozygrammar.com, and I'm happy, as my schedule permits, to at least write a couple lines in response. We would like to be as helpful and supportive of the process as we can. And so on the side of independence, of course, we can hand that over to a student. But we can also encourage a student. We can say, if you're having trouble with, any of these lessons, don't forget, you can always ask a question through Ask Cozy Grammar, or you can even just write to Cozy Grammar, and Thomas can reply to you directly. So those are the tips that I would have for the best ways, or some, I think, good ways to make the course both effective and at the same time to run independently for a teenage learner. So this was from Anita. So Anita, I'll give you a chance now to, if there's any follow-up questions that you want to ask, you can unmute and ask them, or you can put them into the chat box. I'll give you a second to respond. And if not, we'll keep going. But if there's, Anita, does that help to answer your question?
Yes, it really did. I think you covered it very thoroughly, and you've given me some ideas about taking advantage, and I feel like you've made yourself very accessible with the Ask Cozy Grammar sessions, and feel free. I feel like I can easily direct my student to contact you directly if she has any questions.
Wonderful.
So I'm very encouraged by that, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you mentioning to take advantage of the writing activities. I think that could be very valuable. So thanks for bringing that up. No, that was really helpful. Thank you much.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lovely.